Book of Heaven, Volume 25, Part 6. December 25th, 1928. The feast that the little daughter prepares for baby Jesus. How she renders him happy. Adam, first son. Example of the artisan. I was thinking about the birth of baby Jesus, and I prayed him to come to be born in my poor soul. And in order to sing his praises and form a cortege for him in the act of his birth, I fused myself in the holy divine volition, and flowing in all created things, I wanted to animate the heavens, the sun, the stars, the sea, the earth, and everything with my I love you. I wanted to place all created things as though in waiting, in the act of Jesus' birth, so that all would say to him, I love you, and we want the kingdom of your will upon earth. Now, while I was doing this, it seemed to me that all created things would come to attention in the act of Jesus' birth. And as the dear baby came out of the womb of his celestial mamma, the heavens, the sun, and even the tiny little bird, as though all in chorus, were saying, I love you, and we want the kingdom of your will upon earth. My I love you in the divine will flowed within all things in which the divine will had its life, and therefore all sang praises to the birth of their Creator. And I saw the newborn baby, who, flinging himself into my arms, all shivering, told me, what a beautiful feast has the little daughter of my will prepared for me. How beautiful is the chorus of all created things, saying to me, I love you, and wanting my will to reign. One who lives in it can give me anything, and can use all stratagems in order to render me happy and make me smile, even in the midst of tears. Therefore I was waiting for you to have a surprise of love of yours by virtue of my divine volition. In fact, you must know that my life on earth was nothing but suffering, operating, and preparing everything that was to serve the kingdom of my divine will, that must be kingdom of happiness and of possession. Therefore it is then that my works will have their full fruits, and will change for me, and for creatures, into sweetnesses, into joys, and into possession. Now, while he was saying this, he disappeared from me. But after a little while he came back, inside a little cradle of gold, clothed with a tiny little garment of light. And he added, my daughter, today is my birthday, and I have come to render you happy with my presence. It would be too hard for me on this day not to render one who lives in my divine will happy, not to give you my first kiss and tell you, I love you, as a requital of yours, and clasping you tightly to my little heart, make you feel my heartbeats that unleash fire, and would want to burn everything that does not belong to my will, while your heartbeat, echoing within mine, repeats for me your pleasant refrain, may your will reign on earth as it does in heaven. Repeat it always, if you want to render me happy and calm my baby crying. Look, your love has prepared for me the gold cradle, and the acts in my divine will have prepared for me the little garment of light. Aren't you happy? After this, I continued my acts in the divine Fiat, going back to Eden, into the first acts of the creation of man. And my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, Adam was the first human son, invested by our volition, and his acts were more than sun's rays, that extending and expanding were to invest the whole human family, in which one would see many in one, as though palpitating in these rays, all centralized in the center of this first human sun. And all were to have the virtue of forming their own sons, without going out of the bond of the first son. In fact, since the life of each one would have its origin from this sun, each one would be able to be son of his own. How beautiful was the creation of man! Oh, how it surpassed the whole entire universe! The bond, the union of one in many, was the greatest prodigy of our omnipotence, as our will, one in itself, was to maintain the inseparability of all, the communicative and unifying life of all, symbol and image of our divinity, as we are inseparable. And even though we are three divine persons, we are always one, because one is the will, one is the sanctity, one is our power. This is why man is always looked upon by us as if there were one alone, even though he was to have his very long generation, but always centralized in the one. It was the uncreated love that was created by us in man, and therefore he was to give of us and be like us. And our will, the only one acting in us, was to act as the only one in man, in order to form the unity of all, and the bond of inseparability of each one. Therefore, by withdrawing from our divine Fiat, man became deformed and disordered, and no longer felt the strength of the unity and inseparability, either with his Creator or with all generations. He felt like a divided body, broken in his members, that no longer possesses all the strength of his body as whole. This is why my divine will wants to enter again as prime act into the creature, to reunite the broken members, and to give him the unity and the inseparability, as he came out of our creative hands. We find ourselves in the condition of an artisan who has made his beautiful statue, such as to astonish heaven and earth. The artisan loves this statue so much that he has placed his very life in it. So, at each act or movement it does, the artisan feels within himself the life, the act, the movement of his beautiful statue. The artisan loves it with love of delirium, nor can he remove his gaze from it. But in so much love, the statue receives an encounter. It bumps, and it remains broken in its members, and in its vital part that kept it bound and united to the artisan. What will his sorrow not be? And what will he not do in order to redo his beautiful statue? More so, since he still loves it, and to the raving love has added the grieving love. Such is the state the divinity is in with regard to man. He is our delirium of love and of sorrow. For we want to redo the beautiful statue of man. And since the bump took place in the vital part of our will that he possessed, once our will is re-established in him, the beautiful statue will be redone for us, and our love will be satisfied. Therefore, I want nothing else from you but my divine will to have its life. Then he added with a more tender tone, My daughter, in the created things, the divinity did not create love, but the flowerings of his light, of his power, of his beauty, and so forth. So it can be said that in creating the heavens, the stars, the sun, the wind, the sea, the earth, it was our works that we issued, and the flowerings of our beautiful qualities. Only for man was this greatest prodigy of creating the life, and the life of our love itself. And this is why it is said that he was created in our image and likeness. And this is why we love him so much, because it is life and work that has come out of us, and life costs more than anything. December 29th, 1928. Mute heavens and suns. Speaking heavens and suns. How God resumes his creation. How heaven will no longer be foreign to the earth. I was following the divine fiat in the creation to accompany its acts, and my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, My daughter, look, how beautiful is creation. What order, what harmony it contains. And as beautiful as it is, the heavens, the stars, the sun are all mute. They have no virtue to say even one word. On the other hand, the heavens, the stars, the sun, the ruling wind of my divine will, are all speaking, and have such eloquence that no one else can equal them. The angel, the saint, the learned one, before the heavens of my speaking will, remain mute and feel ignorant. But why are these heavens and suns speaking? Because they contain life. But do you know what these speaking heavens and suns are? They are the knowledges that I have manifested to you about my divine will. My will is not only life, but is the font, the source, and the life of all lives. Therefore the heavens of its knowledges could not be mute. So each knowledge about my divine fiat is a heaven, a sun. It is a wind, one distinct from the other, that, having the speaking virtue and possessing the divine life, have the virtue of producing new heavens and suns more beautiful, and winds more mighty, such as to invest the hearts, and make conquests of them by their sweet ruling moaning. See, then, my daughter, how my love surpassed the love we had in creation, in manifesting to you the many knowledges about my divine will. In fact, in creation, one single heaven, one sun, and so forth, were enough for our love, because we wanted to display more all the ardor of our love over speaking man, and for speaking man we wanted to create speaking heavens and suns in the depth of his soul. But by withdrawing from our divine volition, he put a limit to our love, and the speaking heavens no longer had life in him. But our love did not say enough. At the most, it paused and waited. But unable to contain itself any longer, it resumed its creation of the speaking heavens and suns in the little daughter of my divine will. Look at them in the depth of your soul. All of my knowledge is about my Fiat, all in order and harmony. And one is heaven, and speaks, and forms another heaven. Another is sun, and speaks, and while it makes itself light, and it warms, it forms another sun. Another is sea, and forms its speaking waves, and to impose itself with its creative word, so as to make itself listened to, in order to bring the new sea of peace and of joy of my will into all. Another is wind, and now it speaks with its empire, in order to knock down the hardest hearts. Now it speaks with its caresses, so as not to strike fears. Now it speaks with loving moans, so as to make itself loved. And while it speaks, it forms more winds, and its word runs to make known the life, the power of my divine will. In sum, all my knowledges about it are a new creation, more beautiful, more varied than the creation itself, and much more beautiful, because it is a speaking one, and its word is the life of my divine will that it brings to the creature. Therefore, I feel happy in your soul, because I am in the midst of my speaking heavens, stars, and suns. But my happiness is doubled when you make the sacrifice of writing, because I see that these speaking heavens will go out, and their word will form new heavens that will bring the life of my divine Fiat into the midst of creatures. Then will heaven no longer be foreign to the earth, because these speaking heavens will form the new celestial family upon earth, and their word will place creator and creature in communication. The winds of these knowledges will place the secret joys of the most holy Trinity in common. And as the creature becomes the owner of the divine sanctity and happiness, all evils will disappear, and I will have the joy of seeing the creature happy, just as he came out of our creative hands. January 1st, 1929. pages of her life that will form an epoch. The gift that Jesus wants. The circumcision. Decision on the part of God. He is waiting for the decision of creatures. I was thinking about what I could offer to little baby Jesus as gift for the first day of the year. Would it not be good to give him my will again as a little footstool at his little feet, or as an amusement in his tiny little hands? But while I was thinking about this, my little Jesus made himself seen in my interior, telling me, "My daughter, your will is already mine, nor are you the master of it any longer, having given it to me so many times. And I keep it now as footstool, now as amusement in my hands, and now I enclose it in my heart as the most beautiful conquest, and as the secret joy that soothes my many pains." Do you want to know what I would like as gift on this day? All your acts that you have done in my will during this year. These acts will be as many suns that you will place around me, and oh, how content I will be in seeing that the little daughter of my divine volition has given me the many sons of her acts as gift. And I, in return, will give you the grace to double these sons of your acts done in my will, to give you the field, to be able to offer me a gift yet more beautiful and rich. Then he added, "My daughter, each manifestation I have given you about my divine will is like a page of your life. And if you knew how many goods these pages enclose, each of them is a current between heaven and earth. It is one more sun that will shine over the heads of all. These pages will be the heralds of the celestial fatherland. They are steps that my divine volition takes in order to draw near the creatures. Therefore, these manifestations about it, like pages of life, will form an epoch for the future generations, in which they will read the kingdom of my Fiat, the many steps it took to come into their midst, and the new rights it gave them to make them enter again into its kingdom. My manifestations are decrees, and only when I want to give that good that I manifest, then do I move to manifest a knowledge. Therefore, everything I have told you about my divine will are divine capitals that I issued. Therefore they will be the most beautiful pages of your life that will enclose the long history of my will, and braiding the history of the world will form the most beautiful epoch of all centuries. After this, I was thinking about the bitter pain that little baby Jesus suffered in the circumcision. It is only 8 days since he was born, and he submits himself to a cut so painful. And Jesus, moving in my interior, added, "My daughter, in the first epoch of his life, by sinning, Adam made a wound to his soul, through which the divine will went out, and in its place, darkness, miseries, weaknesses entered, that formed the woodworm to all the goods of man. So if he has any good without my divine will, if he has any at all, They are worm-eaten, moldy, without substance, therefore without strength and without value. And I, who love him so much, in the first days of my life down here, wanted to submit myself to the circumcision, suffering a most cruel cut, to the point of snatching my baby tears. And by this wound I opened the door to the human will, to let it enter again into mine, so that this wound of mine might heal the wound of the human will, and might enclose man once again in my divine fiat, that would remove from him the woodworm, the miseries, the weaknesses, the darkness. And by virtue of my omnipotent fiat, all of his goods would be redone and restored. Daughter, from the moment I was conceived, and from the very first days of my being born, I occupied myself with the kingdom of my divine will, and with how to place it in safety in the midst of creatures. These were my sighs, my tears, my repeated sobs, my pains, all directed toward re-establishing the kingdom of my fiat upon earth. In fact, I knew that no matter how many goods I might give him, man would never be happy, nor would he possess the fullness of goods and of sanctity, or have the insignia of his creation that constitute him king and dominator. He is always the manservant, weak, miserable. But with my will, and by making it reign in their midst, I would give him, in one single stroke of fortune, all goods, his royal palace, and his lost dominion. About 20 centuries have passed, and I have not stopped. My sighs last still. And if I have manifested to you so many knowledges about my divine will, these are nothing other than my speaking tears, and the indelible characters of my pains and sighs, that, transforming into words, manifest themselves to you, to make you write on paper, with the most tender and convincing manners, what regards my divine volition, and how it wants to reign on earth, as it does in heaven. Therefore, on our part, the divinity has decided, with indelible and unshakable decrees, that our divine will come to reign upon earth, and no one can move us. And as the sign of this, we have dispatched from heaven the army of its knowledges. If it were not so, it would not be worthwhile to place the so many values of a divine will at risk. Just as they have remained hidden to man for many centuries, so could they continue. Now we are waiting for the creature's part, who are still temporizing for making up their minds, especially those who temporize from occupying themselves with making known the secrets of my divine will and the great good of its knowledges. Human will, how ungrateful you are! I am waiting for your decision, so that we may exchange the kiss, and I may give you the kingdom that I have prepared for you. And you temporize still? My daughter, pray, and place no obstacle on your part to a good so great, that will be the greatest display of our love. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 25, Part 6. Fiat.